I have spent many years on the proverbial struggle bus, and it came a point when I turned 50 that I said, it's time to do things different. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, I had spent many, 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 many years doing that. And then along comes Ashley, and this is completely different than anything I've ever done before, one-on-one with someone. So, I had to change up my mindset and the way I do things. So that's why I reached out, right? I kind of had that I know it all attitude, where I thought I knew fitness, even though, at the end of the day, I didn't know it, right? And I certainly don't know nutrition. And so I really had to set that aside and allow myself to evolve, to learn something new. And so it was kind of getting out of my own way. And in order to do that, I needed an expert. And so Ashley entered my life as that expert. I think, one of my biggest frustrations is I don't know what to believe, right? I can tell you I've done everything from Weight Watchers to Jenny Craig's to the cabbage diet to keto, you name it. I think I can check that box. Atkins back in the day. And so it's really being able to sift through all the noise that's out there and find what it really is about. I mean, I've talked to my doctors about it. Anybody that, I thought could add some value to the conversation, but so many times it wasn't value added. It was just more noise. And so that was one of my biggest frustrations. Probably the other big frustration is, the programs that are out there are big corporations, right? They're not necessarily tailored to that one-on-one individual. And what I have learned through Ashley is that everybody's different, right? So it took us a while to realize that, that whole low carb menu planning is what works best for me, right? I don't know that I would have ever got there with anybody else that took the time and listened every week, week after week of what I was saying, and then finally it clicked. And so, we've seen some success from it. Before Ashley started her own company, Move Fully Nourished, I had worked with her in fitness and in wellness. And, probably the biggest thing for me is I had a fear factor that what I was getting there, I wouldn't get anymore. And I have to say that with Ashley going out and venturing on her own, she's only ramped it up, the intensity. So what she was doing before is nothing compared to what she's doing now. And so I really had to set aside my fear of change and realize that, she's evolving. I'm going to evolve with her. And, everything I'd learned is transferable, and we will continue down this journey together. To anybody that's skeptical about working with Ashley, pick up the phone and call me, and Ashley can give you my contact information. If you do reach out to her, probably nobody was more skeptical than me. I had put a line in the sand with myself that if this doesn't work, I'm done and I'm just going to accept things the way they are. And in fact, I went in there with, Ashley, this is only going to last 3 months because that's all I ever do in programs. And, now I'm nervous that she's not there. So if you're skeptical, get my contact information from Ashley, and I can give you a one-on-one testimonial about how great this program is. And I will say that in order to make it work, you've got to be totally transparent and open-minded. So together, Ashley and I successfully lost about 30 pounds. And in order to do that, again, it all goes back to that mindset. It goes back to that whole, Ashley's not going to pass judgment on me. I'm going to have good days and bad days. I need help where I always never thought I did. Even though I'd go to programs, I would always be like, I got this. In reality, I didn't. And, I had to make sure I was in a safe place. And it took me a minute to get there. But once I got there, like the floodgates opened up. And so, you know, so part of that breakthrough in that 30 pounds is just to kind of set everything you know aside and open your mind and be engaged. So once we accomplish that, you know, Ashley's been a pretty important piece of my life. I mean, I just had a total knee replacement, and, you know, we went through that journey together because Ashley made sure I was set up for success going in to that surgery. And I can tell you at that point in my life, I've never been stronger, you know, probably mentally and physically. And because of that, I've come out of it in a much better place. Not to say there wasn't pain and not to say there wasn't obstacles, but as soon as I came out of it, Ashley was there, you know, to tailor the program again to that place where I was at and what I needed at that point in time. So, you know, that's pretty impactful. And so I'm thrilled that I'm through that process now and coming out the other side. And because of that journey, I haven't gained that weight back. Right? So I'm not going to lose weight if I don't have my mind right. Right? I'm not going to lose weight every day. You know, I've learned not to obsess with the scale. You know, when my positive mental mind is in the game and I'm fully focused, Ashley and I are together are a force to be reckoned with. I mean, we've accomplished a lot. And, you know, while some people will say I'm accomplishing it, I've said it before, I couldn't have done it on my own. I'm stronger. I can make conscious decisions that are good for me. And some days I make decisions that are bad for me. But, you know, we have that conversation, we get up and we move on from it. And again, it's a safe place because there's no judgment. Probably the biggest thing I'm most proud of is obviously going into surgery. I had a lot of tests done and my biometrics are spot on, right? So there are no issues with, you know, blood pressure and blood count and, you know, sugar and diabetes and all that stuff. So, you know, I am very proud of that because I'm very sensitive to the fact that that runs in my family. And I'm hypersensitive to the fact that I need to keep moving and not end up in the same place my parents did. There really is no better program. And like I said, I have been through lots of programs and, you know, they can work for a minute, but they're not sustainable. And that's really the difference. You know, for me to be able to say that, I can back it up with, I went through surgery and didn't have the movement I had going into surgery for probably 8 weeks afterwards. And because of what I learned in the program, I maintained, right? No expectation to lose, because that would be a false expectation, but I maintained. And that's because I learned something in the program on how to eat and what nutrition is about and what nutritionally dense is about and balanced meals. And it's a pretty intense field. And so there's a ton of knowledge with Ashley. Anybody that's nervous, they should not be skeptical. There is a ton of wealth and a ton of knowledge in this program. I say take control and get involved. You know, it is very, very different than anything else that's out there. And I wouldn't change it for the world. We all lead really, really busy lives, right? And while we could be home, you know, are we really taking the time to invest in ourselves? And, you know, there's not a better time, right? I know a lot of people that are, you know, talking about gaining weight while they're home during a pandemic. And then there's a group of people that work with Ashley that are on the fitness and nutrition bandwagon. And so what we've all committed to is carving time out of our lives to make sure that our priorities are in order. And so I will say you get out of it what you put into it. There's been times I've had some weeks, especially when the pandemic first started, that I didn't want to do the program. But you know, we kept talking and we kept going after it and going after it. And finally, you know, you're back into it and you don't even realize it. And I look every week to make sure the next week Ashley is on my calendar. It is part of my business plan as I go into the week from a business standpoint. to make sure that I've got Ashley on my calendar, so I've made the time to fit this in because it's that important to me. If you can set everything aside and open your mind and realize this is more than just nutrition, it's a whole paradigm shift on mindset, and all the added value that comes with it, whether you're doing an online video class, whether you're sending a private message through her program and getting an immediate response, whether you are, she's reaching out and saying, what do you guys want from me? If I don't hear that 3 or 4 times a week, it's not Ashley, right? She's always asking, what do we want from her? And we provide feedback. Her team provides feedback, and she produces the results. To think that you can't afford it or you're not going to find value in it, I would say throw that out the window, right? Because I've done the cost analysis on it, and it just kind of makes sense, right? You're going to invest in yourself somehow, and why not through health and wellness?